and stories through correspondence reports, expert opinion, and stakeholders analysis. Let's look at some of the stories we'll be talking about today. We'll take the story on transportation from the president's statement. Utilizing natural gas is the way to go. And then we'll take a story on security, where the police IG has said that youths are indispensable in achieving national safety. And on education, prioritize development of the sector, ASU tells federal government. On minimum wage, civil servants have threatened to shut down defaulting states if they refuse to pay the 70,000 naira minimum wage. They also stated that the FAC allocation has been increased in states, so state governors should be able to pay the minimum wage. We'll find out more about that story when we delve into the details. And on PMS, the price of PMS, why we stopped importing products. A statement by marketers. They got to tell us, they explained further why they stopped importing petrol. And then on food security, Nigerians have reacted to the news we took on the show yesterday of the federal government deploying agro rangers. We'll find out the reaction of Nigerians to this story. Please stay with us. We'll come back after the break. All right, thank you so much for staying with us. With me in the studio is Loveday Oporum. He's an agro expert, a public affairs analyst, and the coordinator of AGAN River State Chapter. I'm talking about the Agric Graduates Association of Nigeria. Good morning to you, Loveday.
Good morning, Eni.
Thank you for coming.
Having me. Thank you very much.
All right, let's delve straight to it. We have reports that President Bola Tinubu on Monday, August 12th, has commissioned the first set of 20 hybrid compressed natural gas buses, saying that they are an economic necessity all Nigerians must embrace. The president carried out the commissioning soon after a meeting of the Federal Executive Council at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. The Tinubu said utilizing natural gas to power Nigeria's transportation industry is the way to go. And the buses, which comprise the first batch, were produced locally by Innocent Motors and donated by the Depot and Petroleum Product Marketers Association, DAPMAN. 5 of the CNG buses were driven to the forecourt of the president's office as a demonstration for the event. The president acknowledged many ordinary Nigerians are facing challenges of high cost of transportation, and he said the CNG-powered buses will provide a solution to the problems. Well, he cited the examples of India and other countries that have mandated CNG vehicles since 2024, and the solution is here. In his words, we have it and we will work on it. We promise you things will definitely get better and prosperity will be achieved. President Tinubu also assured that with the huge deposit of gas in Nigeria, the federal government will work towards achieving a more productive and innovative CNG power transportation system for the citizens. Laudable, applaudable, or not? Well, we'll find out what our guest thinks about this story.
Wow. Very laudable.
Okay.
Applaudable indeed, and I must commend the federal government for adopting this particular technology, as well as also commend the Innocent Motors. It's a very good one, I must tell you, and that's what we're talking about. We must strive to meet up to the latest technologies. I wouldn't want to also be overtaken or be moved by the positive aspect or the commendable nature of the gesture or the initiative. I also know there are some challenges that will definitely come up, and that challenge borders majorly on issue of sustainability and availability of the CNG, the compressed natural gas. Currently, LPG goes for 1,000 something. We don't know how the CNG will cost as soon as Nigeria keys into this particular initiative. So that's the area the federal government will also look at very critically. But talking about the initiative, the use of compressed natural gas to operate a vehicle, I think is a commendable initiative. Okay,
when I saw that these vehicles were actually contracted and produced here, that's something that I appreciated, a part of the story that I really appreciated, because we usually are used to bringing these things from outside the country.
Exactly.
And not remembering that we have, this goes beyond just the federal government or the state government. Normally, I don't know if you have ever been in that situation where, I think the thing with us here, we just like to bring things from outside. We like to import. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation where you had something, you probably are working on a project, right? And then you needed a particular skill. And then you try to get people from outside, you try to look outside, forgetting that your brother does the same thing. Have you ever found yourself there?
Yeah.
And then before you know it, when you've tried and tried, you're like, wait, I think I was there recently. I'm like, wait, but this is what my brother actually studied. Why am I looking outside? And then I had to reach out to him. It's a mindset that some of us have here, and it's something that we should also get to work on when we talk about not using our expertise here and always wanting to bring things inside. So that's one part of the story that I think is really, really commendable. But what do you think might be the challenges with sustainability? I know you already mentioned the price of gas.
Yes. The price of gas. Having mentioned that, you also mentioned the second one, which is very critical. That's patronage. That's Nigerians patronizing their products. While you were going through the story, I just recalled what happened a few years ago, when the issue of those in the entertainment industry, when our federal government said, no, we must patronize our locally produced music. We must patronize our talent.
See how far we've gone now.
You understand? And see Nigerian music industry today, see the level we are, see how Nigerian musicians are being appreciated and then celebrated all over the world. All over the world. So we can actually do well. Our government can actually encourage, our people, what are being produced locally here to thrive. They can position those products in the global market, and believe me, we will sell. So that's another area that we must pay key attention to. This thing shouldn't just stop at the demonstration stage. The government should go a step further. If possible, all ministries all vehicles that should be used by the ministries across the state should be vehicle produced by innocent. It's not too difficult to do. By encouraging that particular system, believe me, we are going to have other subunits emerging from different parts of the country, and that is how to blow the economy.
You know, talking about using our hands here, not to deviate from the topic, but we're still discussing all of these. I remember once when we were talking about road construction and using our contractors here, and some people were of the opinion that we don't trust our own. We don't have that trust. And why do you think that is?
Yeah, is a perception problem, and is not totally true. Once someone has built capacity and has demonstrated the capacity built, I think the issue of trust shouldn't affect that particular organization or person. For instance, say nursing, which happens to be our subject matter here, he has shown capacity over the years. This is not the first time I've witnessed or seen innocent cars. So the issue of trust is not something that should affect the entire system.
Yes.
We need to go a step further. What has this person done? Where is he coming from? What can we say about him or her? You understand the point? So the issue of trust shouldn't limit, we celebrating our locally made
product. We do that a lot,
product.
especially with constructions. We like to use foreign companies, and when we don't, you hear Nigerians sometimes complaining and saying that
the quality of the
those are carpenters
they
asked to build the road.
Yeah, that's where reorientation comes in. Our people must be sensitized, and then given that proper orientation that our people, what we have can actually give us what we want. That our people can actually be used to actualize our visions and our dreams. It's a matter of orientation and reorientation. If prior to this time we have been having that kind of mindset, it can be corrected.
Yes.
It's a mindset, it can be corrected. And one of the ways to do that is by the government keying in. The government must be at the forefront. The government must drive the process. For instance, if I am a farmer and I am producing, let's say, fish, for instance, and my government, yes, and my government, for instance, let's begin with the local government, which is closer to the people, and my local government has something to do with fish. I am a fish farmer, and my local government has to do with fish, the same species of fish that I produce, and I see my local government importing the fish from another state or from outside the country. Do you think I will be motivated? I will not be motivated. I will be affected. Even the innovation that I have will just die automatically, except you have extra grace to keep pushing. Because the government has a major role to play to ensure that small-scale businesses, private sector, also grow. So the government is the one that should encourage and resensitize our people so that we learn how to encourage what we produce.
What about the people also building capacity and changing the mindset of, just going there and looking for what is ours? Because whichever way you want to see it, every ideology or perception that has been built over time was built on a reason.
Sure,
probably an action. So we might be saying that, we should do that, we should patronize our own, but let's also look at those people who are not making it so easy for those who are trying to patronize our own.
Those who are not making it easy?
Yes, by probably, wanting to bring greed into the picture. I made reference of the contractors that I use.
Okay.
Yes, there have been talks about, especially some of these companies that get to bring in experts from outside the country.
Okay.
And then we have experts here in Nigeria. So what is the problem? And I'm raising this from an analysis of an analyst we had in the studio once, who talked about this and complained that some Nigerians, when they are given these jobs, especially when it has to do with contracts, some of these companies will get to abandon it and things like that, not showing competence when you are given the opportunity or given a chance.
I think our people need to also change in that area. Even the issue of padding. I've heard of where some government functionaries said we find it difficult to give our people, contract, because once you give them you notice that the cost of that particular project is like double because of padding.
That's a greed now coming in.
Exactly, greed. So our people needs to be sincere. If you know you can deliver, just state what it will take to deliver that particular project and do it. And of course, every project, every businessman wants to make profit. Make the required profit. Don't form, you know, don't try to pad whatever just because it's government project so that you pick your own and all of that. And government should also try to deal with the persons directly. For instance, if government wants to allocate or award project, go straight to the company. Needless of having 2-3 middlemen.
Oh, so you don't subscribe to the middlemen?
I don't subscribe because that, exactly that also, you know, it helps to heighten or increase the resources that will be allocated to that particular, because each of the middlemen will have something at the end of the day. So by the time the thing trickles down to the actual project managers, the fund provided must have been depleted. And of course, the person wants to execute the contract, the person will make do with what is available.
Of course. And then also on the pricing, because you feel this is our own. Probably that's another reason people get to, you know, the what did you call it, budget padding? Yeah,
padding.
Yes.
And, issue of underpricing, for instance, if I'm to do a project for you, I know what I'm supposed to do. If we cannot agree on terms financially, I wouldn't venture into that, because I will be affecting I will be dealing with negatively, of course, the integrity of my company or organization. So because I want to do project for the government, I will not accept when I know that the fund being allocated or approved will not be able to carry that project. I wouldn't want to do that. So underpricing, I wouldn't want to maybe blame the government for that. I will blame the project manager, the person that wants to execute the project. You know what it will take, you know, for you to execute that particular project.
This is not just limited to the government and the contractors. This is just talking generally about us here. You know, not wanting to patronize ourselves. You know, wanting to bring it from outside with the ideology that once it's imported, it's the best. Oh, it's imported. Wow. Okay. You believe that's yes, you understand. So that's the mentality, or that's the perception that we are discussing now and trying to, you know, correct. And that's why I'm bringing up all the possible reasons this could be happening. Aside when you mentioned the padding, budget padding, I told you, or people inflating the prices, I told you one of the reasons they might want to inflate the price, so that you don't bring it down, knowing that, oh, it's one of our own here. But let's look at what do you think the federal government can do further with this particular CNG buses initiative to make sure that it's, you know, it is as effective as it should be. You know, a lot of projects have been carried out in Nigeria, and you know the way some of them get to turn out. And that's why when Nigerians hear of a new project or a new initiative, initiative is new as well, a new project, you just believe that, oh, I hope this doesn't turn out just like the others. So they don't even want to pay attention to it.
It's a major challenge. Like I said before, I'm not overexcited hearing that Innocent or Dapman has presented buses to the federal government. Of course, the president commissioning CNG buses. I am not moved too much. I am not so much moved. What I'm looking at is the sustainability of this particular initiative and the price of the CNG, the product itself that will drive this technology. That's what I'm after. So it's not all about Innocent developing this and the president commissioning it. Can the poor masses, can the normal and average taxi personnel, you know, an average driver, can the person afford the CNG? Can vehicles that will serve 3 persons, or sorry, 5 persons as the case, maybe that's a smaller vehicle, can the drivers access and also be able to afford the cost of CNG? For instance, in my office, I never subscribed to using gas to power my generator. I never subscribed to that. You know, you can convert your petroleum gen, you can use gas and all of that. I never subscribed because for me, I felt that petroleum was still economical for me, and I was using
Okay, so let's look at what the federal government has said concerning this. That I know would really need like the people in charge of this to give us, further explanation on it. But
sure.
But let's look at what the federal government has said. Our president has told us that this is in the bid to reduce transportation, the cost of transportation for a lot of Nigerians who cannot afford it now. You and I know that it is on the high, very high. Transportation is on the high side. So this is for the citizens to be able to afford transport, to move from probably one state to another, one place to another. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And these buses are government-owned buses. Do you understand that part of it now?
Sure.
Yes. So, and then talking about, the president also mentioned that we have gas here, that we'll get to utilize that. When we talk about the cooking gas now that you mentioned, cooking gas is imported. Sadly, we import it. But now the president is saying we're going to utilize the gas that we have here. So probably one thing or the other is in place to make sure that that is possible. And this story will definitely be followed up as it develops.
Yeah, yes, and going further, probing further, the president talked about working on that.
Yes.
It's like a project. It's like a work in that is ongoing, an ongoing project. What happened to our refineries? Will the gas be produced outside refinery? So it's a very big question. So the president should also, try to pay key attention to the refineries that we have, because once nothing tangible, is happening at the refinery, in order to set up this refinery to the stage or to the point where they become very functional to serve the masses, believe me, this initiative will no longer, it will not stand the test of time.
All right, thank you so much, Loveday. Let's look at the next story now. This story is on security. Inspector General of Police, Mr. Olukayode Egbetokun, has pledged to protect rights, promote welfare, and provide opportunities for the growth and development of Nigerian youth. Egbetokun made the pledge during the Nigeria Police Force Youth Conference organized to mark the 2024 International Youth Day on Monday in Abuja. The conference, with the theme Enhancing Nigerian Youth Value for National Security Intelligence, was organized by the Nigeria Police in collaboration with UNESCO. Now, the IG said the day is more than a celebration, but a reminder of crucial role young people play in societies and global community. This day underscores the importance of empowering youth, amplifying their voices, and ensuring that their contributions are acknowledged and nurtured. Well, it is a celebration of the transformative powers of the young people in driving positive change and shaping a better future. Now, Egbetokun has said that the theme was a reminder that the strength and future of the country was in the hands of the youth. According to him, the role of the youth are pivotal in driving social change, redesigning our security architecture, and advancing sustainable development. He said Nigeria Police will continue to harness the energy, creativity, and idealism of Nigerian youth in building a safer and more secure and prosperous country. The Nigeria Police Force is committed to creating a secured environment that will empower our youth to realize their full potentials. Wow. Now, how much would you say that, having in mind now that the youths are not dispensable, that they cannot be removed from the picture of national security, how much would you say that the government are utilizing the importance of the young people in fighting insecurity in Nigeria, and the fight against insecurity in Nigeria?
Wow, this is a very serious topic or subject. And I always tell people that you can't drive a system, you can't drive a society without the youth playing an active role. Because they are the direct beneficiary of whatever policy, whether the government or the private sectors are enacting, either positively or negatively. The reason is because the youth, in quote, of course nobody knows who will die first, but the youth, in quote, has a longer time to spend on planet. So the IG capturing that in his statement is quite commendable. But I want to say that it's easier said than done. Yes, like we've seen. Our leaders keep telling us that the youth You know, the future of the nation lies in the hands of the youth. And in recent times, the youth are also beginning to say, when would that our future come? Because even as youth, we are here to begin to take active part in certain government or in crucial government policies. Now, talking about security in this sense, there is no two ways about it. There is no how security of the people, security of the nation can be well achieved without the involvement of the youth in security issues. So it's something that the IG needs to, you know, look at very critically and go beyond the point of just statement or probably paper presentation during conference and all of that, to engaging the youth very proactively. And if we dig further, I think that's the idea of the state or community policing issue that has not also, should I use the word, seen the light of the day, you know, in Nigeria.
So you're also in support of the state policing or community policing?
Sure, I do. I do, because it takes somebody that understands a terrain. It takes somebody that knows, you know, the geographical location of a particular area, not just studying it online or using technologies to study the environment. It takes somebody that, you know, have stayed within a particular geographical location to also guide and protect what is within that environment or destroy it. You understand the point?
What about the talks about people that it might be abused by state governors? That's for state policing now.
That's where the checkmating comes in. You're not giving them autonomy. They shouldn't have the full power to decide in totality what there should be. Some power should be reserved. Some form of regulation should be, you know, kept at the national. So I wouldn't subscribe that the state government should be given sole responsibility. No, there should be separation of power. Even as you're doing that separation of power, certain form of responsibility, checkmating, you know, overseeing the activities at the grassroots. A different group should be kept aside to do that particular job.
That means you also agree that it might be abused?
Definitely. There is nothing good that cannot be abused. So it's not just peculiar to the security aspect.
Yes.
Yeah.
But even if it's at the national, still can be abused?
Sure, it can, but I believe that the effect of having it at the grassroots, you know, operating it from the grassroots, will be very much positive compared to what we have currently.
Let's look at security in general now in Nigeria, looking at engaging the youths further. I know that we have young people in our security agencies that's still engaging the youths. We can't take that away. We cannot say that they're not completely engaging the youths. We have that. So what do you think they can do further? Aside the fact that you have mentioned community policing, where the people in the community understand the terrain better. But let's look at what else the IG especially or the government can do to further engage the youths in security matters.
Yeah, one of the things that the government can do is to leverage on technology. You know, our government must understand that we have come to the point where technology is driving the entire process, the global, you know, movement. The technology is leading, and the youth have a major role to play. Of course, they are playing a major role in that particular sector. So the government will have to engage the youth and then train them more on the area of technology, in order to use technology to run the security process. So that is the area I'm looking at, not just, you know, recruiting young persons. You know, you give them uniform. We have about 50,000 or 20,000 youth to join the security. No, that is not the security I'm looking at. This technology is well understood by the Generation X, which is where we found ourselves, where we belong. So the government should make good use of this potential that the youth has, harness it very well, and then use it to run the security architecture of the nation. So training of our young persons in that area of ICT, cyber security, and all of that is very key. Getting
them involved.
Exactly.
That's one issue that we have seen in our security parastatals, where there are issues, and we have to follow some mundane, you know, practices to handle security of security that is advanced.
Yeah, cloud security.
Do you understand? So we have these guys on the other side, on the negative side, advancing in technology and doing some really big things, and then we have the people who are after them, the cyber security personnel who are after them, not using that updated security measure to tackle it. Exactly. But aside that, now let's look at the statements of the youths. Let's look at what the youths are saying, especially about security in Nigeria now. Are their voices being heard? What about, because the IG mentioned the voices of the youths.
Yeah.
What about listening to the voices of the youths? What about getting them even more involved? For instance, I might not want to get into the security deal. Do you understand? I might not want to be a security agent. You understand? I might not want to be in the police or army or any of the forces. But how can I also play my own role in the security of my nation in whatever field that I am in?
Find yourself. Wow. Just like you said, the voice of the youth may have been heard, but believe me, is yet to be implemented when it comes to security. Let me just use one aspect as a reference point. For instance, in this country, we've been lamenting issue of herdsmen is all over, right? Issue of attack on farm produce.
Yes.
Issue of, kidnapping and all of that. And people are shouting, the young people are lamenting, the elderly, everybody is, how has this, voice, how has the message that has been going out there, how has it been implemented by the security agencies? You want to tell me that it's very difficult to mount cameras on our major junctions, mount satellites here and there that you can use to track some of the, is it too difficult for a country to do? A country like Nigeria? I don't think. So if you ask me, I will tell you that the voices of our youth is yet to be recognized. The recommendation of the youth, the recommendation of the masses on security, sector is yet to be implemented by the relevant agencies. It is yet to be implemented. Otherwise, what we are recording, what we are seeing, in Nigeria, I don't think those things should be. Of course, there is no how you will eradicate insecurity completely from an area, but there are some level of, insecurity, certain things we hear that shouldn't be done. That shouldn't be done in a developing country like Nigeria.
So we should get everybody involved. All hands need to be on deck.
All hands needs to be on deck. And the issue of training, like I said before, I'm just praying that a day will come where we begin to see, real partnership between the security agencies and the community leadership, where the traditional rulers, the CDC chairman of community, from time to time will constantly be attending meetings with the commissioners of police, and then strategies will be marshaled out and then implemented on how to guide their areas, not just ceremonial meetings. I mean meetings that will be evaluated after implementing some of the policies or suggestions, meetings that will be followed up. I'm looking forward to seeing that day, and I believe it will come. There is no how you can operate a security system and address insecurity without the grassroots personnel being involved. And then in most communities, we have vigilantes, we have security personnel at the grassroots level. Another way to boost what these people are doing is to, is for the government to recognize them. The security agencies, especially the police, needs to identify these persons that are already doing this work, that are already trying to, consolidate or to support what they are doing at the grassroots. They need to capture them in their own database and then encourage them by releasing some form of stipends. That would be a kind of also creating job for them. Not these people just doing it at the level of the community and then sourcing for whatever that they need, to fund the system. So if the IG is saying that the voice of the youth, of course, recognizing the role of the youth in security, one of the ways he will show that he has actually understood and has acknowledged the role of the youth is by going to the various areas, go down to the grassroots where this security, architecture is invoked or are operational, and then engage them meaningfully. They should be part of, not just on paper, not just answering the name, we work with police. No, this person should be trained and they should be part of the security system, and some form of encouragement.
I think the training is actually for everybody, even the people who are already involved, the people in these agencies and parastatals of security. They should also be trained and retrained, like it was actually suggested yesterday by one of our guests. But let's look at the next story. The chairman of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, University of Ibadan, Professor Ayola Akinwole, has said that the federal and state government must resolve the conflicts between Nigerian government, the working masses, and Nigerian students in the university system. The ASU boss noted that the government needs to resolve these conflicts by addressing the concerns of all three groups and prioritizing the development of Nigeria's education sector. Professor Akinwole stated this while presenting the 556th inaugural lecture entitled Aquaculture Engineering, Reconciling the Balance in the Trade of Fish, Plants and Man at the University of Ibadan. Wow, reconciling the balance of fish, trade and man, right?
Yeah,
all of that.
Fish, plant.
Okay, and man. And according to him, the conflict stems from insufficient allocation of resources to education, leading to inadequate infrastructure, poor facilities, and outdated curricula. Allegations of corruption and mismanagement of funds within the education sector is another thing that wants to be addressed. Incrementing tuition fees, making education unaffordable for many students, poor living conditions in hostels and academic buildings, inadequate health care, and lack of support services for students. Workers' rights and benefits, disputes over workers' rights, salaries, and benefits, leading to strikes by academic and non-academic staff. Government interference in university affairs, appointments, and policies. Let's take these challenges one after the other. He has talked about government interference. He has talked about staff welfare.
Yeah.
He has talked about the buildings and academic buildings and hostels that the students stay.
Allocation of resources.
You know, he has talked about a lot of the challenges that the education sector faces. And when you look at the education sector and look at some of these challenges, you see that some of the challenges are really basic. And they are not things that we should talk about.
Yeah.
Like the hostels, like where the students stay. This is not something that we should have a roundtable meeting before we know that the students should stay in a conducive environment.
Yeah.
So let's look at it holistically now. ASU addressing the federal government and saying, address the issues of this sector.
Any.
Yes.
I must tell you that the issue of ASU advising or recommending to the federal government what to do is no longer news. Is something that Nigerians shouldn't be talking about.
True.
I still recall those days when we were in school. You know, you see students, Nigerian students, sitting on the floor to learn. And I want to believe that same practice is still going on. If I should take a walk, you know, to maybe nearby institutions, maybe you see some year one students.
You know, sorry to cut you, but when you mentioned that, right, I was taken aback. I'm like, sitting on the floor to learn. Why and how? But you know, I took my mind back to when I was in school, and I realized that this is actually true. But you know, the students have gotten so used to it that they don't think it's a problem anymore.
I'm telling you, is almost like normal in the school environment. What nursery school children, the secondary school children shouldn't even do, but is happening, you know, in our
especially during GS courses.
Exactly. So it's not. I'm just dumbfounded and shameful and ashamed. I shouldn't say of myself, but somehow ashamed of the federal government policies on education. The issue of enacting policies in this country, personally, I'm no longer comfortable with it. Because if you talk about policy enactment, Nigerian government is very good at that. Not just the current administration, but from when we started following up politics and policies of the country. You know, Nigeria is very good at that. But when it comes to implementation, that is where the problem lies. And I keep asking one question. What ASU has been asking, even prior to the time we gained admission into higher institution, we've been hearing of ASU. ASU. Then in secondary school, I will hear, you know, ASU strike. Some of my aunties, my uncles, they will no longer go to school. They say they are on strike. We didn't understand very well until when I also gained admission. We're not probing what is this.
So you experienced the strike too?
Sure.
How long did it make you stay back at home?
Mine wasn't more than 6 months.
And that's still a long time.
Yeah, it is. It wasn't more than 6 months. You know, so this issue has been overheated, and the question I've been asking, why are these things difficult for the state, the federal government to do, or the government? If you take a closer study, you discover that it appears state government-based institutions seems to be doing better infrastructurally in terms of organization comfort than some of the federal institutions.
And why do you think that is the case?
Well, maybe because the state institution is closer to the people, the government directly runs it, and then federal has to cover the entire country, the federal institutions. But that shouldn't be the reason or an excuse. And that is why ASU has continuously lamented on the poor nature of our infrastructure, academic infrastructures. I think it's high time the government attends to this. But the question I've been asking, why has this thing been very difficult for the government to do? If government is sincere, just like the prof said, if the government wants to really improve education, just like they have always said, then there is need to cut down certain expenses. We cannot be talking about prioritizing education and then permit me to say that an individual, a political office holder, is going home monthly with something that like 4 or 5 professors may not even go home with at the end of 3 months. You see the kind of vehicle that some of our politicians are driving, and then we're talking about prioritizing education and students cannot sit down. Then that's high level of insincerity and deceit.
That means it's not really about any particular administration now, because you have made mention of the fact that it has been a long time coming.
Definitely. You too,
and
you are aware.
Government has been we're working with your analysis. We're working with your analysis. It has been a long time coming, because even when we look at the ASU and government agreement, we're looking at 2009. We're looking at that 2009 agreement, and the other day I had to carefully go through it, and I realized that the things that were agreed upon are still the things that also are still complaining to date. And that's how many years ago. I won't, like you have said, one would wonder why we're not paying that much attention to education.
And yet every administration keep emphasizing that we're prioritizing education. And the same problem that ASU has been lamented is still reoccurring. So
So what do we need? What do we need to do now? What do you think would be the way forward? I know ASU keeps calling on the federal government, but then there have been some Nigerians that have said that there are times when the ASU went on strike and then the federal government released funds to them. What happened to those funds? In fact, Nigerians don't even trust these people anymore with our, in fact, we don't trust anybody with our money.
Of course, that's the nature we have found out.
So is it just the federal government now that are they the only ones playing the role in making our educational system to be where it is today?
No, I wouldn't subscribe to that. Even Professor Akewole made mention of that too. He talked about mismanagement of resources.
Okay.
So the university personnel or the academics the lecturers, those that makes up that university community has a major role too to play when it comes to upgrading the standard of education in this country. Even though they feel that they are doing more than the federal government should do by their constant appeal or protest, you know. But I would want to emphasize here that the practitioners has a major role to play. It's not all about providing the relevant infrastructure. How about the content?
True.
How about the content that is being issued out? You know, I can still remember vividly during my school days, I did computer course.
Okay.
But I never operated a computer.
And yet you did a computer course?
Yes, I did a computer course. I think that should be one of the GS courses. But I did not operate computer. You understand the point? I didn't operate computer. Now, not that there wasn't an ICT unit. You understand the point?
So what was
the government has provided the facility. There was an ICT unit then, but no access.
It was only used during exams.
You understand?
Okay,
So
did you even use it during the exams?
no, we did theory.
Okay, I think it was my time we used it during the exams.
Okay, during my own time, we didn't use computer during exam. Computer exam, we did theory. We wrote with pen.
But then when we when we talk about the classes now and the practical, you know, that's another aspect.
Yeah.
Practicals, especially in your field. Let's look at your field now, agriculture, in the educational sector, and practicals. I would not ask you during your time because I know you guys probably didn't even see the equipment. But let's look at what it is now. Would you say it's improving?
Yeah, it is. It is, but the issue of government interference too, in terms of appointment, you know, some of the policies is also making the system not to be consistent. You know, like during my time, we were exposed to some form of practical, but I must tell you for free that the practicals I did while in school, which were supposed to have prepared me very well to face the labor market, right? And to, you know, practice outside the university community. That's not what is carrying me along today. I'm telling you, if I should go by the practical I did in school, I think nobody in my area, nobody in my community or local government will know that love they studied agriculture. I had to come out and then humble myself, go to the farm, meet with people that operate farm, worked for free. Understand the point? So the issue of practical, especially for professional courses, should be seriously
But we have farms in these universities. So what exactly is the problem with making these students get involved in practicals?
That is it. What's the capacity of the farm you have compared to the number of students offering that course? For instance, then when we are to practice a mushroom, you know, imagine we are like 50 students or 30 students will be exposed to a practical, and then there will be a kind of a segment that, you know, you man this section, you do this. There's nothing like you undertake or you engage in the process from beginning to the end. Believe me, till we graduated, maybe some persons didn't do one or two aspects of that particular production involved in that production. And
they studied agriculture.
You understand the point? So that's the challenge. Even if there are farms, what's the capacity of the farm? What's the size of the farm? So that's the area that we need to also, both the government and those manning the faculty, the department needs to also upgrade. You know, so
no, we didn't really hear this aspect of it. Whenever we talk about agriculture, right?
Yeah.
And then we have to analyze that. People would always say, oh, because there are no equipments, the equipments are not available for the students to practice. But now I'm hearing that not just the equipment, even the lands. Because how much do we really need for that to be done? Some of these universities have areas that are not being used or even touched. So what happens to allocating this to these departments for practicals?
Well, the issue of land, the lands are there, but if you want to grow crops, won't you buy the seedlings? you will buy the ceiling, you need equipment.
What are they going to school for? Okay, what are they going to school for? What is the training? Is that
that nobody likes hard work? That every person wants something, soft job, So even as a student,
yes,
you wouldn't want to overstress yourself and all of that if you see an easy way at you, because there are so many things.
That happens more when we have students who never wanted to be in that field in the first place. These students that they just give you that course.
Yeah.
And I know that for some reasons there's this ideology or perception that, especially with the agricultural department, a lot of the people there did not apply for that course. Why are you laughing? Can you relate? It seems like you can relate. Do you agree with what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And that's why some of us, I happen to be a victim of that. Let me say that here. I happen to be a victim of that, but I didn't want that to overshadow me. When I enter, I'm one person that always see the hand of God in whatever that happens to me, especially once I pray, I didn't allow that to weigh me down. Most persons in the field of course, I did a study in that area. For the faculty, the department not to be admitting or not to accept people sent to them. You understand the point? Because it also affects the quality of persons that the faculty or the department produce. Yes, at the end of the day. So it's another challenge. It's a major challenge, but that challenge didn't.
But you fell in love with the course.
Sure.
Not everybody falls in love with it.
Exactly.
So there's this saying of, just go to school. Anything they give you, any course, just go to school. And that's why we're producing the kind of people that we're producing sometimes.
Yes, and at one institution too. If I happen to be maybe a dean of a faculty, if you did not put in that course, that's why from JAM you have choices, right?
Yes.
If you didn't apply for that, it has something to do on the long run. It affects the student. It's not every person that will have the courage, okay, let me just go back and write JAM. Don't admit, especially in the field of agriculture, which is where I'm coming from, is not something that should be commended, and it shouldn't continue. Agriculture faculty should not be used as a dumping ground. If you fail to get medicine, medical laboratory science, they push you to agriculture. Agriculture is a serious course, it's a professional course, and must be appreciated, must be valued by those practicing it. I am very much happy that I'm an agriculturist. I am fulfilled doing the job.
Could it be because we don't have so many people applying for that course, and that's why they're bringing in more people?
Yeah, that's one reason. Of course, the university environment and the government understands the role of agriculture in the society. If you look at the percentage of those applying for agriculture, especially those of us in this part of the country, South, is quite different when you go towards the northern part. You understand the point? But here in the South, you don't see much persons applying for agriculture. So the institution somehow, they move persons, so long as you're in science, they move you to agric. Let's use these persons to cover up that particular faculty. So it's not a good practice.
When they obviously do not have the capacity for that number of students.
Yeah, I had a friend, when we were in year 2, he had to pull out. He said, Loveday, this thing is not working. I need to go and do engineering. And believe me, today the young man is doing well as an electrical electronics engineer.
Wow.
He's practicing, he's doing very well. You know, so that's how it should be. Passion should be the driving force. If you find yourself in the department and you know that the thing is not working, there is nothing wrong. The person can pull out, but it may be difficult because of this mindset that what you study doesn't matter. And you see that same philosophy is also affecting even our appointment, political appointment, where you take somebody that is not a professional and you fix the person into a professional ministry because what you study doesn't really count. And when you see them practice, when you see them, come up, when you expect them to come up with significant policies and the initiative that will drive that particular ministry or department forward, you just get disappointed because of this same concept. So it should be discouraged.
All right, thank you so much, Loveday. Let us take some time off now. We'll go on a short break and we'll return. The conversation will continue. More stories for you. Please stay with us. And we are back. Thank you so much for staying with us. Let's move up to our next story now. The Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria have threatened to cripple the activities of states that have refused to implement the 70,000 naira new national minimum wage. President of the association, Sheikh Mohammed, gave the threat yesterday during the association's 5th quadrennial delegates conference in Lagos, where he emerged as the new president. According to him, for states not ready to implement the new national minimum wage, let me tell you categorically, it is impossible. We are coming for them. Those were his words. He urged state governments to implement the new national minimum wage to improve the standard of living of their citizens, since the income of state governments have continued to rise following enhanced allocation from the Federal Account Allocation Committee. Now, Mohammed has urged the states could achieve this by reducing wastage and blocking leakages of government funds, advising states to embrace the policy of indexing income to correspond with the rate of inflation. ASCSN new president said the most important priority now is to address the issue of the new minimum wage by constituting a committee to address the consequential adjustment towards implementation and the strategies to ensure workers have a living wage in Nigeria. Earlier, the Secretary General of the Association, Joshua Pebo, argued that following the increase in allocation from the federal account, since the removal of fuel subsidy, the state governors should immediately implement the new national minimum wage to improve the standard of living. One would want to ask, even with the increased allocation, why are state governors still saying that they cannot afford to pay the 70,000 naira minimum wage?
It's very disturbing. Very disturbing, I must tell you. 70,000 naira minimum wage to be paid to civil servants, and some state government are still
on 18,000. They're still paying the previous one before.
Okay,
yes, some state governors did not change.
Exactly. Some didn't get to 35, right?
They did not get to 30.
They were still on 18,000, and then it has graduated from 35 to 70, and some of them are still saying that they are not. For me, I see that as high level of wickedness, you know, to the people, to the masses, the civil servants. Otherwise, what is 70,000 naira compared to? Of course, when the dialogue was going on, I was in my little corner, I was praying. I said, God, Chai, let the president approve 150,000. That was my mindset. That was why I positioned my mind. And finally, there was an understanding, and 70,000 was reached. And some state governments are still saying that they are not comfortable with that, they can't pay. Of course, what the Senior Civil Servant Association said, that's the right thing. They should go after them. They should give them, probably this month, if they fail to implement, they should go after them and cripple their own their income process. Yes, if that can be done.
But let's look at the defense. In the defense of the state governors now, some of them have complained that they are not generating enough in the states, so their IGR is low. Some of them, their IGR is as low as no IGR, according to them, in their defense, when they explained why they might not be able to pay. And then some of them also said that in order to prevent or avoid them laying off some staff, having in mind that they can't pay, instead of laying off some staff and having some people jobless, that state governors should be given the liberty to choose how much they can pay as their minimum wage.
That will be the highest level of financial inconsistency in terms of allowance to civil servant, if that should be approved. For goodness sake, we have a system that is running. We have the federal government, and directive understanding has been reached. If there is any need, a particular state will not be able to pay. I think the federal government should know. The federal government should be aware. The federal government knows how much that goes into states' accounts. And then, believe me, there is no how the federal government would have agreed on 70,000 without taking into cognizance the amount that each that goes to each state. And then, if a particular state is saying they cannot because of their IGR, I want to ask a simple question. How many SAs, how many PAs do commissioners in those states have? You understand the point? How many vehicles, how many official cars do the commissioners have? So those areas should also be considered. If you're saying you're not generating enough, then there will be areas where you need to cut down expenses. To be, for goodness sake, these persons are working. The civil servants are doing the job. They are working. They are employed by the government. So they should also have a good life. They should have a good life. It's quite disturbing hearing that some states...
So you believe if they cut down on the cost and the expense in the states, cost of governance in those states, they'll be able to meet up with the national minimum wage?
Definitely, even without cutting down expenses. Nigerian state has money. I must tell you that from what we see, yes, Nigerian states have money. 70,000 is not too much for a state in Nigeria to pay her civil servant.
All right, let's look at the next one now. Petroleum marketers have said that the motor spirit, that's premium motor spirits, cannot sell below 1.5. That's 1,500 naira per litre in the current circumstances. They said the current level of supply, which leaves a huge gap between the cost reflective price and the present pump price of between 617 naira and 820 naira per litre, is causing supply shortage. Speaking with newsmen on telephone, the president of the Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria, Petron, Dr. Billy Harry, said the product is not sold below $1 anywhere in the world. Harry has said he was shedding light on why the marketers stopped importing petrol, and he said nobody is going to import the product around 1.5 and then sell it less than 1.4. This is because you have to make profit to be able to restock the product. There is nowhere 1 liter of the product sells for less than $1, and $1 today is about 1.6 or thereabout, and it is almost 1,700. So you can see that even if you import petrol, even at 90%, you can't reasonably make any profit. So the government is absorbing the shock. The NNPCL is absorbing the shock. We are willing and we are still making efforts. He decried the difficulty marketers go through to access forex from the Central Bank of Nigeria as another reason for abandoning the deal. Harry has said that we tried to bring one cargo when the regulation started. After that one cargo, we couldn't bring again because to access forex to pay for other fees is such a challenge, and to also be able to place our order becomes a challenge for the same reason that we can't access forex from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Also, don't forget that the landed price of petrol in Nigeria is quite higher than what is being sold at the retail outlet. These were some of the challenges that were mentioned by the marketers, petrol marketers in Nigeria, and this is what they have said. This is the reason we stopped importing fuel. Imagine a country that produces crude oil having all of these challenges and going through all of these challenges after how many years of discovering crude oil in the country?
Is a pathetic situation that we have found ourselves as citizens of this country. That Nigeria is still importing fuel, petrol. And I keep asking, where is the raw material situated? Where is the raw material that is being refined that gives to produce petrol? Where is it? It's found here in the country, it's found here in Nigeria. And we have refineries. What has kept those refineries the way? That is why the government cannot convince an average Nigerian. It will be very difficult for an average Nigerian to believe 70 to 80% whatever policy or statement that our government is telling us or is making. Quite difficult. You have the raw material. You have the facility to refine the raw material. Am I correct? Yet you are not refining. You're not taking your raw materials outside. They will refine outside, and then you do what? You now import.
More expensive.
Very expensive.
You must add that.
And then you want to tell us that you are leading a people You want us to see you as a leader.
What do you think is the challenge with this?
Of course, the challenge is the interest of the government, which they have not unveiled to the people they are leading. Probably the government has huge benefit, huge advantage importing the product than producing here in the country. There is something selfish about this whole thing. I see high level of, egocentrism. You want to impoverish the people, then to grow your personal status, profile, and company or whatever, which they have not made. Because aside that reason, I see the reason why Nigeria will still be talking about importation of petrol.
Because when we talk about most of the issues and challenges that we're facing as a country, it is always boiling down to the refineries not being as effective
That's
as they
the focal
should be.
point. That is it. That's the point. And you now need to, I don't think it will be difficult for an average Nigerian to concur to what I'm saying. If there is no hidden agenda, if there is no selfish interest, for the past 2 decades, Nigerians have been, let me just say 2 decades, Nigerians have been lamenting on the issue of, petroleum. Petroleum prices have been so inconsistent. There is no administration that has maintained a particular petroleum price. And the issue of refining the product here in the country has been a subject matter that all well-meaning Nigerians, both well-meaning and those that are
almost every Nigerian.
every Nigerians, both the informed and uninformed, are lamenting, and the government is adamant to addressing the issue. There's no two ways about it. They are interested in
let's look at some of the steps now. Some of the steps that the government has taken towards making our refineries functional. A lot of times we've heard large amount of monies year in, year out being, channeled to revamping the refineries. All right, that is a step. Anyhow you want to see it, is a step by the government to put our refineries in place. We've heard that over and over again, and that's why some Nigerians are saying all of those monies that have been put into revamping the refineries and are still not functional, if probably have been put together to build a new refinery, that refinery would have been in place by now. But we cannot say that the government has not done anything, because this, like I said, is a move and a step that the government told us were carried out. Yeah,
a step, a move or a step that is supposed to be one in the right direction, but the outcome has kept all of us in a very serious position. Let me call it in a dungeon of obscurity, no longer knowing what is going on.
No, we're told they'll be functional, especially the Port Harcourt refinery, before the end.
Is it the first time that you were told?
Year?
It's not the first time. And that's why some of us, especially myself, until I see it working, I can't, there's no amount of, conviction, there's no amount of words that the government will use to convince me or to make me believe that their pronouncement when it comes to the oil sector, in terms of our refinery working, that will make me believe. I won't believe, because, for instance, the Dangote refinery, the hopes of Nigerians were heightened. We were trusting and believing God that, wow, they gave us time, in no distant time. We were seeing pictures. And at the end of the day, nothing was forthcoming. So it's not about give us time in the next 1 month, in the next 2 months. Nigerians want to see it work. We want to hear that Port Harcourt refinery, so refinery is now functioning, is producing.
In this capacity.
And then we want to feel the impact of that production, not just because anything is possible in this country. They can as well hijack or carry material to the refinery and then do whatever they want to do and tell us it's producing. If it is actually producing, the effect must trickle down to the grassroots.
Yes. It reminds me of a post that I saw, a very funny post that I saw of a statement that the refinery, Port Harcourt refinery, will be producing before the end of the month, and all of that they'll be producing full capacity before the end of the month. And then someone said, is the refinery aware that they
Okay.
And someone's like, is the refinery aware that they'll be producing before the end of the month? But let's look at our last story now.
And I was wondering if the refinery has become an animate
that are not aware. They just, or maybe the people in charge might even just see the post and they'll be like, wow, so we'll be producing. All right, let's look at the next story now. Nigerians have reacted to the federal government's deployment of 10,000 agro-rangers to 19 states to ensure food security. You would recall that the deployment announced by Olusegun Dada, the special assistant to the president on social media, aims to safeguard farmlands and also ensure the safety of farmers who have been increasingly targeted by violent attacks. The agro-rangers are also tasked with mediating conflicts between farmers and herders and preventing the malicious destruction of farmlands, a growing concern in the northern region and other parts of the country. While some Nigerians see it as laudable, others faulted the viability. Taking to Facebook, one Mbok Umor said, "God bless the president for this initiative. These agro-rangers are expected to protect our forest from criminals who have used the largely uninhabited forest to do crime." Again, this is one of the practicable methods of reducing activities of some persons who are hell-bent on preventing farmers from going to farm. While we had another user, Joseph Lucky, who said 19 northern states, including the FCT, that's 20, diving 10,000 personnel to each state would, okay, dividing 10,000 personnel to each state would be about 500 personnel each. Now, how can 500 personnel secure all farmlands and crops in a whole state? What is going on in our forests? If it was a country that means well, they would have declared a state of emergency regarding that aspect. I pray Nigeria succeeds. Well, those were the reactions of just a few Nigerians amongst the others that we had concerning that particular report of the federal government deploying 10,000 agro-rangers to 19 states in Nigeria. You're an agro-expert,
yeah.
So I'd love your thoughts on this initiative.
You know, like I earlier stated, it's a good initiative, but I am no longer moved. I'm not very much interested in on some of these initiatives, these policies of government, because of what we have seen over time. The issue of implementation has been my major concern. This is not the first time we're hearing about agro-rangers. Of course, even before some of us were born, I learned that there was a time Nigerians were practicing, they had farm guards. They have farm guards, and it was a government outfit. You know, the government was responsible in their well-being and was taking care of them. But over time, we never saw those things again. And then the issue of insecurity, herdsmen, and all of that took over most farmland. It's a very good initiative. But the government, instead of, or rather than just enacting policies, coming up with a good initiative, they should do more in retrospect by digging deep, going back. What led to the failure of the ones we established previously? Issue of farm rangers, we had it before. Why did it collapse? Why was it not sustained? And then once you go down the lane, the government will now be able to say, okay, this is where we failed. This is what we are now introducing in order to make this system work. If that is not done, believe me, it will still be business as usual.
Do you think that this, since you said it's a good initiative, some people have the opinion that this, we're talking about bandits, we're talking about headsmen in some of these fans, and some people have said that they feel like they feel like more advanced equipment should be given or provided for this particular thing to be carried out successfully. And they also feel statements were made like, oh, if the army could not handle, in Nigeria's words now, some of the comments I saw, why would they ask NSCDC to handle it? You know, so for the initiative, I know you've said it's a good one, but do you think, let's look at the personnel now. Do you think that they should have probably looked at a more advanced one, or how do you see the selection, or maybe using the NSCDC in this case?
Okay, for me, there's nothing wrong with using the NSCDC. Some person said soldiers would have been more preferred. The training of soldiers, except you're declaring those zones as war zones.
What do you think?
Yeah, what I think is that the NSCDC personnel should be given an advanced training in order to meet up to the demand of the people, and the training should go more digital. If we must address this issue, there should be a kind of training that will help the practitioners, those involved in this particular job, to be able to track the source, the point of movement of some of these persons, not when they get to the farm directly. You know, there should be that kind of training. So it calls for an advanced training of this personnel, not just giving them weapons. You know, I don't think that will really address the issue. The government should employ, you know, advanced technology and equip these people so that they will be able to.
And let's also look at the numbers that were deployed. 10,000 for 19 states with the FCT. Yeah,
is a good start. There's always a beginning point. It's a good start. Of course, those persons will be paid. It's not, I don't think it's a voluntary stuff. They are already government personnel. They are only being deployed, and I want to feel that more hands will be added to them. I am thinking, I don't know how the structure was organized, but I feel that there will also be some persons from the grassroots that will be attached to this security personnel. So there is always a beginning point. That number isn't a bad number. The government can always improve, and then let it not be politicized. Okay. That's another area that is giving me much concern. Anything is possible. Let it not be politicized. Let that team do their job. Let it not be a situation where one influential person or political will now begin to use them to. Their job is well spelled out. So,
but saying that unless we are declaring those zones war zones, what is happening with insecurity in some of the states in Nigeria, especially on the farmland, that has affected food, that has caused hunger now in the land? Don't you think more stronger approach should be used?
Well, yeah, I quite agree with you, but until there is a declaration that place is a war zone or there is a high level of threat, if you ask me, the issue of soldiers shouldn't be used. But the issue of insecurity on farmland, you know, herdsmen or whoever vandalizing farmland is a very critical issue and has resulted to high level of food scarcity. It's a major cause of food crisis in the nation. The government can go a step further. The government can go a step further. In as much as they have provided these persons, they can as well keep the military as backup.
All right, at this point, I would have to cut you because time's no longer on our side.
Okay.
But thank you so much for joining us and being a part of the conversation.
Thank you very much.
And I must thank my team, the man behind the camera, the man and the MCR. Thank you so much, China Gorom and Emmanuel, for joining us, making this possible. And this is where we get to wrap things up on Atlantic Blowout. Just remember that we are open for sponsorship and partnership. Stay connected with us on all of our socials on Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network on Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1, and on X at Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live on our website at www.atlanticnetwork.tv. Peace and unity are the pathways to progress. I am Enidoye Jackson. Coming up next is Open Conversation.